The silver ships appeared on Tuesday morning, hanging in space like beautiful jewels against the black sky. They came quietly, without warning or fanfare. 3 massive vessels, each one looking like carved crystal and polished metal, drifted into Earth's outer solar system and stopped just beyond Mars. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center deep beneath Colorado Springs, watching the screens with careful eyes. She had seen many things in her 30 years of military service, but nothing like this. The ships were elegant and strange, their surfaces catching sunlight and throwing it back in rainbow patterns. "Ma'am, they're broadcasting something," said Lieutenant Park, his fingers dancing over his console. "It's coming through on multiple frequencies." Sarah nodded. "Put it through." The voice that filled the room was melodic and oddly beautiful, speaking perfect English with just a hint of something musical underneath the words. "Greetings, people of Earth. We are the Kethavari, explorers from distant stars. We come in peace, seeking friendship and knowledge. We wish to meet with your leaders and share the gifts of science and wisdom." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. After decades of wondering if humanity was alone in the universe, here was the answer. But something in the back of her mind whispered caution. "Send word to Geneva immediately," she ordered, "and activate Protocol Omega." Lieutenant Park looked up with surprise. Protocol Omega was the most classified contingency plan in Earth's military. Only a handful of people even knew it existed. "Ma'am, are you sure?" "Just do it," Sarah said quietly, never taking her eyes off the alien ships. 3 days later, the world watched as sleek shuttles descended from the alien vessels to land at a specially prepared site outside Geneva, Switzerland. The whole planet held its breath as the first beings from another world stepped onto Earth's soil. The Kethavari were tall and graceful, with pale blue skin and large, intelligent eyes that seemed to glow with inner light. They wore flowing robes that seemed to shift color as they moved. Their leader, who called himself Overlord Zethkar, spoke with calm authority. "Your world is beautiful," he said to the assembled crowd of world leaders, diplomats, and reporters. "We have traveled far to meet you, drawn by the signs of intelligent life on your planet." Ambassador Marcus Webb, Earth's chief diplomat, stepped forward with a smile. "Welcome to Earth. We are honored by your presence and eager to learn about your civilization." Overlord Zethkar's lips curved in what might have been a smile. "And we are eager to learn about yours. We offer gifts of friendship." He gestured, and other Kethavari brought forward devices that hummed with unknown energy. "These are medical scanners that can heal any disease. These are power cells that will provide clean energy for your cities. These are computers that can solve problems your science struggles with." The world leaders gasped and murmured with excitement. Here were solutions to humanity's greatest challenges, offered freely by these elegant visitors from the stars. Dr. Elizabeth Reyes, Earth's leading scientist, examined the devices with wonder. "The technology is incredible," she whispered to Ambassador Webb. "These power cells alone could end the energy crisis forever." But Admiral Sarah Chen, watching from the back of the Great Hall, noticed things that others missed. The way the aliens' eyes moved constantly, recording everything. The subtle scans their devices performed on every human in the room. The careful questions they asked about Earth's population, resources, and military capabilities. The negotiations continued for days. The Kethavari were charming guests, sharing stories of other worlds they had visited and technologies that seemed like magic. They spoke of the Veltari, a species of artists whose beautiful cities they had helped to preserve. They mentioned the Morden, brilliant engineers whose inventions had enriched the galaxy. They told tales of the Kreshtai, mighty warriors who now served as guardians of peace. "So many worlds, so many friends," Overlord Zethkar said during a formal dinner. "The galaxy is vast, but intelligent life is precious. We seek to bring all thinking beings together in harmony." The world leaders were captivated. Here was hope for humanity's future among the stars, partnership with beings who seemed wise and benevolent. But late at night, in a secure bunker far from Geneva, Admiral Sarah Chen spoke quietly into an encrypted communicator. "Nemesis, this is Command. Status report. The voice that answered came from somewhere in the cold darkness of space, from a ship that no sensors, on Earth or in the alien fleet, could detect. Command, this is Captain Elena Vasquez aboard the Nemesis. We are in position and maintaining full stealth. The alien vessels show no sign of detecting us. Good. Keep watching and recording everything. I don't trust these visitors. Neither do I, Admiral. Their ships are armed with weapons I've never seen before. And there's something else. I'm picking up encrypted transmissions between their vessels. They're not speaking the same language they use with us. Sarah felt her suspicions growing stronger. Can you decode their communications? Working on it. But Admiral, if these beings are as peaceful as they claim, why are they scanning our military installations? Why are their ships positioned in perfect attack formation? And why do their gifts contain microscopic devices that I can only describe as spy equipment? Sarah's blood ran cold. You're certain about the spy devices? Positive. Every piece of technology they've given us is transmitting data back to their ships. They're mapping our world, counting our people, measuring our defenses. Keep monitoring, Elena, and be ready. Ready for what, Admiral? Sarah stared at the reports on her desk, filled with glowing descriptions of Kethvari generosity and wisdom. But she remembered her grandfather's stories about wolves that came to the farm looking gentle and friendly, right up until they showed their teeth. Ready for the moment they stopped pretending to be our friends. The next morning brought more celebrations as the Kethvari demonstrated their gravity manipulation technology, making huge blocks of stone float like feathers. Children around the world watched in wonder as the aliens created beautiful light, displays in the sky above Geneva. Overlord Zethkar stood before the cameras with his arms spread wide. This is just the beginning, he said. When you join the greater community of worlds, such marvels will be commonplace. Your species has such potential. We are honored to guide you toward a brighter future. But Admiral Sarah Chen was not watching the demonstration. She was in her command center studying sensor readings and tactical reports. The alien ships had moved during the night, positioning themselves over Earth's major cities. Their weapons, previously hidden behind elegant curves of crystal and metal, were now clearly visible to her satellites. Ma'am, Lieutenant Park said, quietly, we're detecting massive energy buildups in the alien vessels. Whatever they're planning, it's big. Sarah nodded grimly. She had hoped she was wrong, hoped that her decades of military experience had made her too suspicious. But the evidence was clear. Send a coded message to all our assets, she ordered. Tell them the honeymoon is over. In space, invisible and silent, the Terran Warship Nemesis drifted through the darkness. Captain Elena Vasquez and her crew watched the alien fleet with growing alarm. They had been humanity's secret for 20 years, built in hidden shipyards in the asteroid belt, equipped with technology the rest of the world believed was impossible. Captain, whispered her tactical officer, I've decoded some of their transmissions. You need to hear this. Elena listened to the translated alien communications, and her face went pale. The Kethvari were not explorers or friends. They were conquerors, and their peaceful visit was nothing more than the calm before a storm that would destroy everything humanity had ever built. The change came on a Thursday morning, exactly 21 days after first contact. The world woke to find that everything had shifted overnight. Ambassador Marcus Webb was having breakfast in his Geneva hotel room when the emergency alert flashed on his phone. Within minutes, every screen on Earth displayed the same image. Overlord Zethkar standing in what looked like a command center, his elegant robes replaced by dark armor that seemed to absorb light. People of Earth, he began, and his voice was no longer musical and kind. It was cold and sharp like breaking glass. The time for pretense is over. We have completed our evaluation of your world and your species. Webb dropped his coffee cup. Around the world, billions of people stopped what they were doing and stared at their screens in growing horror. You have been tested, Zethkar continued, as we have tested 46 other worlds before you. Some species proved useful and were incorporated into our great empire. Others proved worthless and were removed. You have 72 hours to decide which category you belong to. The image changed to show massive alien warships decloaking throughout the solar system. Hundreds of vessels, each one larger than Earth's biggest cities, bristling with weapons that glowed with deadly energy. They hung over the homeworld like a pack of wolves surrounding a wounded deer. "Surrender unconditionally," Zethkar said, "and your useful individuals will be preserved as servants and workers. Your knowledge will be catalogued. Your resources will be harvested efficiently. Resist, and you will join the Veltari, whose beautiful art cities are now ash. You will share the fate of the Morden, whose brilliant minds thought they could outsmart us. You will follow the Kreshtai warriors, whose courage meant nothing against our power." Admiral Sarah Chen watched the broadcast from her command center, her face set like stone. Around her, officers and technicians worked with desperate intensity. "Ma'am," Lieutenant Park reported, his voice shaking, "we're detecting energy signatures from the alien fleet that are off the charts. Each of those ships could level a continent." "What about our orbital defenses?" Sarah asked. "The aliens are jamming most of our satellites. The few that are still working show that our defense platforms are like toys compared to what they're bringing against us." Sarah nodded grimly. She had expected this, but the reality was still overwhelming. Humanity's mightiest weapons were nothing against technology that could manipulate gravity and bend space itself. "Get me President Morrison," she ordered. Emergency session of world leaders was chaos. Presidents, prime ministers, and generals all talking at once, their faces pale with terror on the video screens. "We have to surrender," said President Kowalski of the European Federation. "Look at those ships. They could destroy us without breaking a sweat." "Maybe we can negotiate," suggested Prime Minister Chen of the Pacific Alliance. "Offer them something. They want more than conquest." "What could we possibly offer them?" demanded President Morrison of North America. "They've been studying us for 3 weeks. They know everything about our technology, our resources, our people. If they wanted to trade, they wouldn't need an invasion fleet." Admiral Sarah Chen listened to the arguments with growing impatience. Finally, she spoke up. "With respect, ladies and gentlemen, we're missing the point. This isn't about negotiation or surrender. This is about survival." "But Admiral," President Morrison said, "our combined military forces are no match for even one of their ships, let alone hundreds." Sarah's expression was unreadable. "Perhaps, but we won't know until we try." The alien demonstration began an hour later. A small Kethvari ship, no larger than a destroyer, approached one of Earth's uninhabited islands in the Pacific. The world watched as a beam of pure energy lanced down from space and simply erased the island from existence. Where there had been rock and trees and beaches, now there was nothing but boiling water. Overlord Zethkar's voice echoed across every communication channel on Earth. "That was a gentle reminder of our capabilities. Tomorrow, if you have not surrendered, we will demonstrate our power on one of your cities. The choice is yours." In the command center beneath Colorado Springs, Admiral Sarah Chen gave orders that would have seemed insane to anyone who didn't know the full truth about humanity's preparations. "Launch all conventional forces," she commanded. "Every ship, every fighter, every missile we have in space." "Ma'am," Lieutenant Park protested, "that's suicide. Our weapons can't even scratch their hulls." "I know," Sarah said quietly, "but we need to make them believe we're desperate. We need them to think, this is all we have." The battle began at dawn. Earth's space fleet, brave but hopelessly outmatched, threw themselves against the alien armada. Human fighters buzzed around the massive Kethvari ships like angry wasps attacking giants. Missiles and energy beams lit up the darkness of space, creating a light show that could be seen from the ground. It was magnificent and terrible and completely hopeless. The aliens barely seemed to notice the attacks. Their shields absorbed everything humanity could throw at them. Occasionally, when a human ship got too close or too annoying, a casual energy beam would swat it aside like brushing away a fly. Overlord Zethkar broadcast again, and this time, he was laughing. "Is this the best you can do?" he asked mockingly. "Your brave pilots die for nothing. Your weapons are toys. Your defenses are paper walls. 46 worlds have tried to resist us, and all have fallen within hours of showing. Their strength, you are no different. But even as humanity's conventional forces were being destroyed in space, Admiral Sarah Chen was not watching the battle. She was in communication with someone else entirely. Nemesis, this is command. Report. Captain Elena Vasquez's voice came, through the encrypted channel, calm and professional despite the chaos around them. Command, we have been observing and recording everything. The alien weapons operate on quantum frequencies we've never seen before. Their shields use gravitational distortion fields. But Admiral, I think we've found something interesting. Go ahead. They're overconfident, sloppy. They're not even scanning for threats they can't see. Their entire fleet is positioned as if they're absolutely certain nothing can surprise them. Sarah felt the first glimmer of hope she'd had all day. Weaknesses? Several. Their shield generators are centralized on each ship. Take out the generator, and the whole vessel becomes vulnerable. Their weapons have a charge time of approximately 30 seconds between maximum power shots. And Admiral, they're bunching their ships together because they've never faced an enemy that could hurt them. How long do you need? Give us 6 more hours to finish our analysis. We want to be absolutely sure we can make this count. Sarah looked at the tactical displays showing Earth's forces being methodically destroyed in space. You have 6 hours. Make them count. As night fell over Earth, the alien fleet moved into final attack positions above the planet's major cities. Zethkar's ultimatum echoed around the world: surrender by dawn or watch civilization burn. In secret bunkers and hidden command centers, the leaders of Earth made their final preparations. Most believed they were preparing for the end of everything they had ever known. But Admiral Sarah Chen and Captain Elena Vasquez knew differently. They were preparing for humanity's greatest gamble, a desperate plan that had been 20 years in the making. The aliens thought they had won. They had destroyed humanity's visible defenses, scattered its fleets, and demonstrated their overwhelming power. They had done exactly what they had done to 46 other worlds, and it had always worked before. But humanity had been watching the stars for a very long time. They had been preparing for this day since the first human looked up at the night sky and wondered what might be looking back. The Kethvari had made one crucial mistake. They assumed that what they could see was all there was to see. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The dawn of the final day broke red over a world preparing for its last battle. Across Earth, the remaining fragments of humanity's space force gathered for one desperate strike against the alien fleet. It was a pathetic sight, but it was all they seemed to have left. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in her command center, watching the tactical displays with an expression that looked like grim determination mixed with growing despair. Around her, officers coordinated what appeared to be humanity's final military effort. "Ma'am, the lunar bases are reporting ready," Lieutenant Park announced, his voice hollow with exhaustion. "What's left of them anyway?" The alien bombardment had been systematic and brutal. 3 of Earth's 4 moon bases were smoking ruins. The orbital defense platforms were debris floating in space. The great space station Columbus had been vaporized so completely that not even wreckage remained. "Order all remaining units to converge on the alien flagship," Sarah commanded. "If we're going down, we'll go down fighting." Above them, Overlord Zethkar's massive command ship hung over Geneva like a dark angel of death. The alien vessel was beautiful and terrible, its crystal surfaces reflecting the sunlight while weapon ports glowed with contained energy that could crack planets. "Your time is up, humans." Zethkar's voice echoed across every communication system on Earth. "You have chosen resistance over wisdom. You will join the other foolish species that thought courage could defeat superior technology." The final battle began with humanity's last fighters screaming up from Earth's atmosphere, their engines burning bright against the morning sky. Missiles launched from hidden bunkers, following trajectories calculated to converge on the alien fleet's weakest points. The survivors from the lunar bases fired everything they had in one coordinated assault. It was beautiful and brave and utterly hopeless. The alien shields absorbed the human weapons like water soaking into sand. Energy beams reached out from the Kethvari ships with casual precision, swatting human fighters from the sky. Within minutes, the desperate attack was over, and humanity's last military assets were burning wreckage falling toward Earth. "Magnificent," Zethkar said, broadcasting to the world. "Your species shows courage worthy of respect. It is almost a shame to destroy you. But the galaxy belongs to the strong, not the brave." In the command center, Admiral Sarah Chen appeared to slump in defeat. Her officers hung their heads, staring at screens that showed nothing but destruction and loss. "Ma'am," Lieutenant Park whispered, "should we send the surrender signal?" Sarah looked around at her staff, these men and women who had served with distinction and were now facing the end of everything they had sworn to protect. Her voice was quiet but carried clearly through the bunker. "No surrender. If they want this world, they'll have to take it from us." High above Earth, Overlord Zethkar prepared to demonstrate the price of defiance. His weapons officers targeted major population centers, while his communications specialists prepared to broadcast humanity's final moments to any species in the galaxy that might be watching. "Begin bombardment," he ordered. "Start with their capital cities. Let them watch their civilization crumble before we finish them." The first energy beam lanced down toward London, a spear of light that would have erased the ancient city in seconds. But something impossible happened. The beam struck an energy shield that appeared from nowhere, a barrier of crackling force that deflected the alien weapon harmlessly into space. Zethkar stared at his tactical displays in confusion. What was that? Where did that shield come from? His sensor officers worked frantically at their consoles. "Unknown, my lord. Our scans show no shield generators in that area. No power sources capable of generating that kind of defensive field." "Scan again. Humans do not possess such technology." But even as he spoke, more shields appeared over New York, Tokyo, Moscow, and Beijing. Every major city on Earth was suddenly protected by barriers that his instruments insisted did not exist. "My lord," his tactical officer reported, voice tight with confusion, "I'm detecting massive energy signatures throughout the human solar system, but our sensors show nothing there. It's as if the energy is coming from empty space." Captain Elena Vasquez smiled grimly as she watched the alien confusion from the bridge of the Nemesis. Around her, the stealth ship's crew worked with quiet efficiency, their movements practiced from years of secret preparation. "Stealth field holding steady," reported her tactical officer. "The aliens still can't see us." "Good. Signal the other ships. It's time to even the odds." Across the solar system, humanity's true fleet began to decloak. Not the obsolete fighters and patrol ships the aliens had easily destroyed, but vessels that had been built in secret over the past 20 years. Ships that incorporated technology the public Earth governments didn't even know existed. The Nemesis was the largest, a massive dreadnought bristling with weapons that operated on principles the Kethvari had never encountered. Around her, dozens of smaller warships materialized from empty space, their hulls dark and angular, designed for stealth and devastating first strikes. "My lord!" the Kethvari sensor officer cried in panic. "Ships are appearing everywhere. Massive vessels, heavily armed. How is this possible?" Overlord Zethkar felt something he had not experienced in over a century of conquest. Genuine surprise. Where did they come from? Why didn't our sensors detect them? "Unknown, my lord. Their stealth technology is unlike anything in our databases. It's as if they were invisible to all our scanning methods." On Earth, Admiral Sarah Chen dropped her mask of defeat and spoke into her communicator with calm authority. "This is Admiral Chen to all Terran Defense Fleet units. You are authorized to engage the enemy. Show them what humanity is really capable of." The battle that followed was unlike anything the Kethvari had ever experienced. For 1,000 years, they had conquered worlds through overwhelming technological superiority. They would arrive, demonstrate their power, and watch their enemies crumble in despair. But now they faced an enemy that had been watching them, studying them, preparing for them while remaining completely hidden. The Nemesis opened fire first, her quantum disruptor cannons punching through Kethvari shields like they were made of paper. Antimatter torpedoes streaked across space, detonating against alien hulls with devastating effect. The humans used weapons the Kethvari couldn't even identify, let alone defend against. "How are their weapons penetrating our shields?" Zethkar demanded. They're using quantum field manipulation to bypass our defensive systems, his science officer reported. And my lord, their ship designs are completely optimized for stealth attacks. They've been studying our technology and building countermeasures. More human ships decloaked around the alien fleet. These weren't desperate defenders making a last stand. These were hunters who had been patiently waiting for their prey to fall into a perfectly prepared trap. Captain Vasquez watched the tactical display as her fleet systematically dismantled alien vessels that had seemed invincible minutes before. "Target their command ship," she ordered. "Let's have a conversation with their leader." The Nemesis fired a precise burst that disabled the alien flagship's weapons but left its communications and life support intact. Around them, the rest of the Kethvari fleet was learning that their 1,000-year reign of conquest was about to come to an abrupt end. "This is impossible," Zethkar whispered, watching his mighty armada being destroyed by ships that shouldn't have existed. "No primitive species has technology like this. How did they build such vessels without us knowing?" His communications officer looked up with fear in his eyes. "My lord, we're receiving a transmission from the human command ship." Captain Elena Vasquez appeared on the main screen, her expression calm and professional. Behind her, the bridge of the Nemesis hummed with advanced technology that made even Kethvari science look primitive. "Overlord Zethkar," she said politely. "I am Captain Vasquez of the Terran Defense Fleet. I believe you have something that belongs to us." "What? What do you want?" Zethkar stammered. Elena's smile was cold as space. "An apology would be nice, and reparations for the damage you've caused. But mostly I want you to understand something very important." She gestured, and the tactical display showed the remains of his once mighty fleet floating as debris around Earth. "You made the mistake of thinking that what you could see was all there was to see. You assumed that because we appeared weak, we were weak. That's the kind of error that ends empires, Overlord." Zethkar stared at the human captain, his mind struggling to process what had happened. In less than an hour, his invincible fleet had been reduced to scrap metal by an enemy he hadn't even known existed. "Surrender," Elena said simply, "and maybe we can discuss what happens next." The silence that followed Captain Vasquez's demand stretched across space like a held breath. On the bridge of his crippled flagship, Overlord Zethkar stared at the tactical displays that showed the impossible truth. His mighty fleet, the same armada that had conquered 46 worlds, was dying around him. "My lord," his tactical officer whispered, "we've lost 60% of our vessels. The remaining ships are reporting critical damage. Their weapons are unlike anything we've encountered." Zethkar's hands trembled as he gripped his command chair. For over a century, he had been the sword of the Kethvari Empire. He had broken worlds and shattered civilizations. He had watched entire species kneel before his power. And now, in the span of one impossible hour, everything he believed about Kethvari's superiority had crumbled to dust. "How?" he demanded, his voice cracking. "How did primitive humans develop such technology? Our intelligence report showed them barely capable of interplanetary travel." Captain Elena Vasquez's image remained on his main screen, her expression patient but implacable. "You're making the same mistake again, Overlord. You're assuming your intelligence was accurate." Elena gestured, and the display changed to show Earth as it truly was. Not the divided, struggling world the Kethvari had observed, but a planet surrounded by hidden shipyards, concealed defense stations, and cloaked patrol vessels. 23 years ago, Elena explained, our deep space monitors detected the first signs of your empire's expansion. We tracked your conquest patterns, studied your methods, and prepared accordingly. Everything you've seen of humanity has been carefully designed to make you overconfident. Zethkar felt something cold settle in his stomach. You knew we were coming. We've been watching you for years. Every primitive transmission you intercepted was crafted to make you believe we were helpless. Every desperate defensive position was calculated to feed your arrogance. You didn't conquer 46 worlds through superior strategy, Overlord. You won because nobody was ready for you. Admiral Sarah Chen's voice joined the conversation. From Earth. But we were ready. We've been ready for decades. The truth hit Zethkar like a physical blow. The negotiations, the peaceful first contact, that was all a lie? Not a lie, Elena corrected. A test. We needed to observe your technology, study your tactics, and confirm our intelligence about your methods. Your 3 weeks of diplomatic contact gave us everything we needed to plan your defeat. On the bridge of the Nemesis, Elena's tactical officer reported quietly, "Captain, the remaining Kethvari vessels are powering up their weapons. It looks like they're preparing for a suicide run." Elena nodded. Expected. Overlord, you have 30 seconds to order your remaining ships to stand down. If they open fire, we will destroy them all. Zethkar looked around his bridge at officers who had served him faithfully for decades. These beings had trusted in Kethvari superiority, believed in their empire's invincible destiny. Now they faced annihilation at the hands of a species they had dismissed as primitive. "My lord," his weapons officer said desperately, "we still have enough firepower to damage their planet. If we're going to die, we can take their cities with us." For a moment, Zethkar considered it. The final gesture of a defeated empire, one last act of destruction before the end. But as he looked at the tactical displays showing the scattered remains of his fleet, he realized the futility of it all. "Stand down," he ordered quietly. "All ships, power down weapons and prepare to be boarded." "My lord." His officers stared at him in shock. "Stand down." Zethkar roared, the weight of defeat crushing down on him. "Can't you see? We've been outplayed from the very beginning. These humans haven't just defeated us, they've been controlling us since the moment we arrived." The Kethvari fleet powered down their weapons, and human boarding parties began transferring to the alien vessels. Elena watched the operation with professional satisfaction, but her mind was already moving to the larger implications of what had just occurred. "Admiral Chen," she said over the secure channel, "we need to discuss what happens next. This victory is going to send shockwaves across the galaxy." Sarah's voice carried a note of grim satisfaction. "Already ahead of you, Captain. I'm receiving reports from our deep space monitoring stations. It seems the Kethvari weren't the only ones watching this battle." Elena frowned. "Explain." "We're detecting quantum communication bursts from at least 12 different directions. Word of what happened here is already spreading to other species. The galaxy is about to learn that the invincible Kethvari Empire just got crushed by a species they considered primitive." As human forces secured the surviving alien vessels, the true scope of humanity's deception became clear. The Kethvari had been watching Earth for months before making contact, studying human communications and military capabilities. But what they hadn't realized was that humans had been carefully controlling what they could observe. Every secret military base the aliens had identified was deliberately visible. Every classified communication they had intercepted was intentionally leaked. The entire human defense network they had cataloged was nothing but obsolete equipment and deliberate misdirection. Meanwhile, humanity's real military strength had been completely invisible, hidden by stealth technology that the Kethvari couldn't detect and concealed in locations they never thought to scan. "It's brilliant," admitted the Kethvari science officer as human technicians examined his equipment. "You made us believe we were spying on you, when actually you were controlling everything we learned." Commander Torres of the human boarding party nodded. "The art of war isn't about having the biggest guns. It's about making sure your enemy doesn't know where your real guns are until it's too late to matter." But the victory came with its own complications. As news of the battle spread, humanity suddenly found itself at the center of galactic attention. The Kethvari Empire had been a dominant force for over 1,000 years. Their defeat would create a power vacuum that other species would scramble to fill. "Captain," Elena's communications officer reported, "we're receiving messages from multiple star systems. Some are congratulations from species that were conquered by the Kethvari. Others appear to be challenges from their allies and rivals." Elena studied the incoming transmissions with growing concern. "How many species are we talking about?" "At least 50 different civilizations, Captain." And those are just the ones we can identify from their signal patterns. Admiral Sarah Chen's voice cut through the chatter. Ladies and gentlemen, we've just become the newest player in galactic politics, and apparently, we've made quite an entrance. On the captured Kethvari flagship, Overlord Zethkar sat in detention, staring at walls that now confined the being who had once commanded fleets across the galaxy. A human guard, young and professional, brought him water and what appeared to be standard military rations. "Tell me something," Zethkar said quietly. "How long have your people been planning this?" The guard considered the question. "Since before I was born, sir. My grandmother worked on the first stealth field prototypes. My father helped build the asteroid shipyards. This has been a multi-generational effort." Zethkar felt a chill of recognition. "You planned for decades to defeat an enemy you had never met." "We planned to survive contact with whatever was out there," the guard corrected. "Turned out to be you. Could have been someone else. But we were going to be ready either way." As the last of the alien vessels was secured and the prisoners processed, Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Nemesis and looked out at the stars. Humanity had won its first interstellar war, but she suspected it would not be the last. The galaxy had just learned that Earth was not the primitive backwater it appeared to be. The question now was what the galaxy would do with that knowledge. 6 months after the Battle of Earth, the galaxy was a very different place. The news of humanity's victory had traveled faster than light across hundreds of star systems, carried by quantum communications that could not be stopped or hidden. The species that had trembled before Kethvari might suddenly found themselves free, while those who had allied with the Empire scrambled to distance themselves from its defeat. Captain Elena Vasquez stood in what had once been Overlord Zethkar's private quarters aboard the former Kethvari flagship. The elegant alien decorations were gone, replaced by human efficiency and function. The ship itself was now the headquarters of humanity's growing interstellar operations. "The Veltari delegation has arrived," announced Commander Torres, entering, with a data pad full of reports. "They're requesting an immediate audience, something about eternal gratitude and alliance proposals." Elena nodded wearily. It had been like this for months. Every species that had been conquered, threatened, or even looked at suspiciously by the Kethvari wanted to meet with humanity. Some brought gifts, others offered treaties, and a few came with barely concealed demands for protection. "Schedule them for tomorrow morning, and make sure Admiral Chen is available for the video conference." The human victory had revealed something that shocked the galaxy. Earth was not alone in its preparations. Admiral Sarah Chen had spent the months after the battle sharing carefully selected information about humanity's true capabilities. The galaxy learned that humans had been monitoring interstellar communications for decades, had established secret observation posts throughout nearby star systems, and had been building their hidden fleet for over 20 years. But perhaps most surprising of all was the revelation that humanity had allies. "Ma'am," Torres continued, "we've also received another message from the Mordoon Collective. They're confirming that their resistance cells are ready to coordinate with our operations against any remaining Kethvari loyalists." Elena smiled grimly. The Mordoon had been one of the Kethvari's earliest conquests, their brilliant engineering, minds supposedly integrated into the Empire's technological development. What the Kethvari hadn't realized was that the Mordoon had been secretly sabotaging their conqueror's equipment for decades, introducing subtle flaws and hidden weaknesses that humans had been able to exploit during the battle. "And the Kreshtai? Still refusing formal contact, but our intelligence suggests they've begun open rebellion against Kethvari occupation forces in the Outer Rim." Their message was brief. "The humans have shown the way. Now we finish what they started." The door chimed and Admiral Sarah Chen appeared on the main communication screen from Earth. Behind her, the familiar command center buzzed with activity as humanity adapted to its new role as a galactic power. "Elena, I hope you're ready for this," Sarah said without preamble. "We've just received intelligence that changes everything." "What kind of intelligence?" Sarah's expression was grave. The Kethvari Empire wasn't just a conquest force. They were running from something. Something that made them seem peaceful by comparison. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. Explain. According to the data we've extracted from their archives, there's another empire out there. The Kethvari called them the Devourers. They don't conquer worlds like the Kethvari did. They consume them entirely, stripping planets down to bare rock and moving on. Torres looked up from his datapad with alarm. Are they heading in our direction? Unknown. But here's the interesting part. The Kethvari expansion wasn't about conquest for its own sake. They were trying to build up enough military strength to face the Devourers when they eventually arrived. Every species they conquered, every world they claimed, was meant to be a resource in a much larger war. Elena absorbed this information with growing concern. So by defeating the Kethvari, we've potentially left the galaxy defenseless against an even worse threat? That's one way to look at it, Sarah admitted. But there's another perspective. By breaking the Kethvari Empire, we've freed dozens of species that had been forced into servitude. The Mordun, the Veltari, the Kreshtai, and others are now free to use their abilities for defense rather than supporting their conquerors. Elena walked to the viewport and looked out at the stars. In the distance, she could see human ships, working alongside alien vessels, sharing technology and coordinating defenses. It wasn't the empire the Kethvari had tried to build through force, but it was something potentially more powerful, an alliance built on mutual respect and shared purpose. Admiral, what's the status of our expansion plans? That's what I wanted to discuss with you. The President and the Joint Chiefs have approved Operation Deep Watch. We're going to establish monitoring stations and defensive positions throughout the local galactic arm, but we're not doing it alone. The screen split to show representatives from a dozen different species. Elena recognized the crystalline features of the Veltari, the metallic skin of the Morden, and the fierce expressions of the Kreshtai warriors. Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of various descriptions, Sarah addressed the assembled group. I present Captain Elena Vasquez, Commander of Humanity's Deep Space Operations. A Veltari representative spoke first, her voice like musical chimes. Captain Vasquez, your species has given ours something we thought lost forever. Hope. We offer our artistic and cultural expertise to help build a civilization worth defending. The Morden delegate, his mechanical augmentations gleaming under the ship's lights, added, Our engineering capabilities are at your disposal. Together we can build defenses that neither the Kethvari nor these Devourers could imagine. But it was the scarred Kreshtai warrior who surprised Elena the most. Humans fight with wisdom, not just courage. This is a combination our people respect. We offer our warrior traditions and our knowledge of combat to strengthen this alliance. Elena looked around at the faces on her screen, both human and alien. What you're proposing is unprecedented in galactic history, isn't it? Completely, admitted the Morden engineer. Most species either conquer their neighbors or are conquered by them. Voluntary cooperation between equals is almost unknown. Then we'll be the first to make it work, Elena said firmly. But understand this. Humanity won't be the leaders of this alliance. We'll be partners. Each species contributes according to their strengths, and each has an equal voice in decisions that affect us all. Admiral Chen smiled with pride. That, Captain, is exactly why we're going to succeed where others have failed. Over the following months, the alliance that would become known as the Terran Federation began to take shape. Human stealth technology was combined with Morden engineering and Veltari artistic sensibilities to create ships and stations that were both functional and beautiful. Kreshtai warriors worked with human strategists to develop new tactical doctrines that emphasized cooperation over domination. But perhaps most importantly, the alliance began to spread its message throughout the galaxy. There was an alternative to conquest and empire. Species could work together as equals, sharing their strengths and protecting each other's weaknesses. Not everyone was pleased with this development. Several major powers that had profited from the Kethvari system of domination began making threatening gestures toward the growing alliance. But they faced a problem. How do you attack an enemy you can't see coming? Humanity's gift to the galaxy wasn't just military victory. It was the proof that patient preparation, careful planning, and the wisdom to appear weak while being strong, could overcome any amount of brute force and arrogance. Years later, when the first Devourer scouts finally arrived at the edge of known space, they found something they had never encountered before. A galaxy united not in fear or submission, but in determination. Dozens of species working together, sharing technology and tactics, ready to defend not just their own worlds but each other's. The Devourers had consumed 100 galaxies by appearing stronger than any single species could resist. But they had never faced anything like the Terran Federation, where seeming weakness hid incredible strength, and where the greatest power came not from domination, but from cooperation. Captain Elena Vasquez, now an admiral commanding the largest fleet in galactic history, received the first Devourer surrender message with the same calm professionalism she had shown years before. "This is Admiral Vasquez of the Terran Federation," she broadcast to the defeated enemy fleet. "You made the same mistake everyone else has made. You assumed that because we chose peace we were weak. You thought that because we preferred cooperation to conquest we couldn't fight when necessary." She paused, looking out at the stars that now represented not just humanity's future, but the future of all thinking beings who chose freedom over fear. Welcome to the galaxy where the meek inherited the stars, and the wise learned that the greatest strength comes from knowing when not to use it.